Well, thank you, everyone. It's my pleasure to be moderating the first panel session of this series of seminars on the Egypt Energy Forum. I'd like to firstly invite all of my panelists to join me on the stage. We have Tim Richards from General Electric. Tim is the General Electric's Managing Director for Government Affairs and Policy in the Middle East, North Africa, and the Turkey region. We have Imad Ghali from Siemens. He is currently based in Cairo. Mr. Ghali is the Senior Executive Vice President for Wind and Renewables in the Middle East and Power and Gas. Also, could I invite Wael Hamdi, who is Vice President of Al Saweedi Electric. Al Saweedi Electric is involved in the contracting, development, ownership, operation, and maintenance of infrastructure projects. Before Al Saweedi, Wael had assumed several managerial positions within the energy, oil and gas, and hospitality sectors in Egypt. And then lastly, can I please invite Tamir Shafiq. Tamir Shafiq has worked at Erascom Construction since 1998 and has held the position of Business Development Director for the past 5 years. The panel session today is to look at Egypt's rapidly expanding clean energy opportunities. We have a very distinguished group of panelists to help give their take on the opportunities in Egypt and the opportunities that they are looking at in the clean energy sector. Now, there are statements that we've all read in the press over the 12 months relating to Egypt's renewable energy sector. The renewable energy sector has been valued at a $13 billion opportunity for the private sector over 5 years. And Egypt's New and Renewable Energy Authority aims to generate 20% of its power from renewable energy sources by 2020, which is double its current amount. So the opportunities are there, they're real. And the panelists are going to give their thoughts on those opportunities and the decisions they're making to capitalize on this. The first question I'd like to pose, and I'd like to pose this one first to Tamir from Erascom. What's driving Egypt's move into clean energy?
Thank you, Derek, for this question. I guess it's a good question because, like we've heard earlier today, the current energy mix of Egypt is not really an appropriate one compared to other countries and global, I guess, energy mix in other countries as well. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that we need to depend less on fossil fuels and more on renewable energy. And also, we have a lot of sun, as you know, and everybody else here is aware. And we also have very good wind locations in Egypt for that. So we need to depend less on fossils. We need to depend more on our wind and solar. And because we have very efficient projects already, wind power plants already, from very good locations. And like I said, because the solar energy is very good as well. So that's, I guess, what's driving Egypt now.
Thank you. Imad, how do you expect Egypt's energy mix to evolve in the medium to long term?
Let me start with a short background. Back in 2013, actually end of 2012, when Siemens has identified the need to support the government to divert the energy mix, and we started to work and to analyze the situation in Egypt on the energy mix. We worked with our customer and our partners in Egypt, and we came up with an energy mix, which in our opinion is the best one for Egypt, which was based on 70% natural gas using a state-of-the-art advanced combined cycle power plant and 30% renewable, mainly wind. And we started to work and to diversify and to develop this energy mix. And until we started early end of last year to work on the implementation of the high-efficient combined cycle, and as Dr. Sobki has mentioned, also our wind power plant. The government has took several initiatives over the last 12 months to diversify the energy mix. Beside the high-efficient combined cycle, they worked on coal power plant, ultra supercritical, to bring the coal into the energy mix. They are working on the nuclear part. They are really investing in the solar and the wind. So I believe the energy mix of Egypt will continue along this path. It will include nuclear, it will include coal, but it will rely heavily on the still natural gas power plant, on wind and solar. This I would see it over the next 10 years.
Okay. Wael, do you think Egypt is getting its energy mix right? Do you think that it should be focusing more on renewables than the current announcements? How do you see it developing?
It's a matter of resources. So if we look to the resources, so it's quite well known that we don't have coal, as an example, as available resources in the market. So as part of the energy mix, it's there to have the right diversity of this mix. But as resources, actually, the best resources we have today are sun and wind. Hydro is almost very close to 100% deployed in Egypt. So there are no more rooms for hydro to be deployed in Egypt. Very few, probably. Wind, solar are the available on a large scale in Egypt with some of the best resources worldwide. So definitely the future of the energy mix will rely heavily on renewables. Oil and gas still taking big part of our energy production currently, but I do not think this will continue. It's true that we had giant gas explorations currently ongoing, but as well as we had oil before, so this is still remains as medium-term solutions to a little bit, to some extent, long-term, but not very long-term solutions. So I would say that the shift ongoing during the last few years, and the plans the government setting for renewables will be continuing aggressively and should continue in this direction, and it's very much needed, and it's very much rational as well.
So you feel that the Egypt's gas-fired announcements in early 2015 in the short to medium term will not have an impact on the energy mix, but long term that gas firing could have an impact on the types of projects that Egypt is looking to develop its energy needs?
We understand as well that the energy needs in Egypt are huge, and the forecast for the escalation in the requirements of energy production are giant, to the extent that all type of resources are required to contribute to this power production plans. Definitely they will have big contribution. I think the biggest contribution on the next 20 years will be from gas and renewables. Nuclear and coal should be there just as diversity options, but definitely the gas findings will not shift, or should not, in my opinion, shift the mind of the government from concentrating on the long-term plans of larger deployment of renewable resources. I assume as well in the very near future we should have been digging deeper on the use of other resources like geothermal, as an example, which I know that in some areas of Egypt, those might be very, very economically sound resources of energy as well.
Sure. Tim, what challenges do you think Egypt will face in developing a successful balance for its energy mix?
Well, thank you, Derek. And first of all, it's a great pleasure to be here. It's great to be with Dr. Mohammed, customers, other companies in the energy sector. First of all, let me say, I think Egypt is doing exactly the right thing by looking at a diverse and multifaceted energy supply approach. You know, you have prices come up and go down, but the fact is it's in the interest of any country and to have that diversity because it provides insurance for all sorts of potential changes in the future. Renewable energy is, in fact, one of the ultimate forms of an insurance policy because renewable energy is not going to be subject to the whims of the marketplace over time. The wind is likely to continue to blow in Egypt as it does now, and the sun is likely to continue to shine in Egypt as it does now. The other thing is that the opportunity for improved efficiency is another renewable resource. Egypt today is using natural gas in a number of projects that are actually down around the 30% thermal efficiency level. And with our newest technology, we have the opportunity to achieve combined cycle thermal efficiencies of over 60%. That's free energy. And so the plans that the government has to introduce these new technologies, the newest H-class turbines and the ability to put those in combined cycle are exactly the right things to be doing. And that's what our company, as Deb's video and as what Deb said shows, that's exactly what our company is doing. One last thing to mention is the industrial internet. The other game changer that Egypt has the opportunity to build into its future policy plans is to take advantage of that combination of incredible data flows off of sensing devices on power generation and power distribution and transmission equipment, take that data, apply software and analytics to it, and achieve enhanced productivity. This is something that Egypt is at the very early stages of, and the potential there is tremendous.
Thank you. Wael, back to you. Could you give us your views on the investment decisions that your organization makes on the Egyptian energy market? What does your management look at? What are the risks that you see in developing projects?
Of course, every business has its own risks. So currently, of course, our focus is renewables. We believe strongly in the renewable plans set by the government. That's why we had the first move even in the market towards this. So I will recall in 3 years back from today, we were working on the first fully merchant project in Egypt in renewables. Fortunately, we had moved we made big steps in this direction. Unfortunately, it was not good enough to have the project up and running by today, but we're still working on it. So when we look at the investment in Egypt in energy sector, we focus today on renewables as we see this the lowest risk, and under the current plans and policies set by the government, especially during the last couple of years, we have seen that the government have rationally taken into consideration many of the risks associated with the investment in this sector, and they had sort of considered good mitigation measures for them. Still, there is always a space for improvement, and as every developer and investor, we are sort of looking for total elimination of risks as much as we can. So we are still working, but fortunately as well, we have hand in hand with the government, we are working continuously on addressing our areas of concern, and we have always a very positive response. And they are running a very professional dialogue with all developers, and we rely on this, and so far we hope that this will continue. And definitely this will conclude very shortly more projects to come. On the current time, we are developing already on the wind, on the solar projects under the feed-in tariff, under the merchant scheme. We are bidding under the BOO. So this probably responds clearly to your question that we have considered every scheme on the renewable energy sector as part of our interested investment, and we have already taken action towards this. So the unconventional, probably still investment on non-conventional in Egypt is not as developed as the renewables. So on the renewable sector, we challenge every scheme available in the market currently.
Thank you. Imad, same question to you. From Siemens' perspective, what investment decisions does your organization make in relation to the Egyptian market?
In my opinion, there are three pillars which we always consider as Siemens in investing in Egypt. The first one is local partnership. This is crucial for us, and we are happy in Egypt that we have a strategic partnership with Orascom and with Sweden. The second partnership, local workforce. The second pillar is local workforce, and within the undertaking by Siemens in the mega project, we are going to train up to 600 Egyptians on the different technologies in power plant, wind, and high voltage gas insulated switchgear. The third pillar is local business environment, where Siemens is involved with our partner to enhance the environment of doing business in Egypt with our integrity initiative. So those are the three pillars on which we are focusing in Egypt to push investment and also to undertake the investment we are doing on the wind side, for example.
Thank you. Tamer, your organization has recently developed partnerships in the solar sector. I mean, how has Orascom approached investing into the renewable sector and the importance of partnerships to achieve your investment?
Sure. Thank you for that. Orascom, as some of you might be aware, we've been investing in Egypt for many years, for the last maybe 30 years. And we've been investing in cement and fertilizers, and we're a construction company as well as a developer. We started lately also on the PPP program in Egypt. When it started, we won the first PPP project, and now currently the second. And also in the renewable sector, as your question was referring, we were the first EPC contractor on the first solar power plant in Egypt, the 20 megawatt CSP in Kuraymat. And then now we are the lowest bidder on the BOO wind project, 250 megawatt, with the Japanese and the French group that won that project. And currently we're also as per your question, having partnerships for the solar and the wind power plant projects that are upcoming for the feed-in tariff program. And also we're participating on the BOO for wind and solar that are coming. So in a nutshell, we understand Egypt very well. We understand investment decisions in Egypt. We are able to mitigate any risks associated with these developments. Like Wael mentioned earlier, there are still some risks there, but as an Egyptian company, we understand what the Egyptian government is doing. They have many legislations in place now that protect foreign developers as well as Egyptian ones. And we believe they are going in the right directions. And our partnerships as far as the wind, solar, and other developments, I think are proceeding very well currently.
Tim, what is GE's approach to investment risk? From an investor perspective, what are the risks that are key and important to GE, and how are you looking to address those going forward?
GE is really excited about Egypt as a investment destination. In fact, as Deb mentioned in her presentation, we are going to be building a $200 million multimodal facility. And that facility will do two types of things. It will actually do manufacturing, and our intention is that as we develop more wind projects in Egypt, that we will be manufacturing wind components in this multimodal facility. And secondly, we'll be doing training. And so we'll be actually developing both field engineer talent and also beginning to work with people who are interested in developing technical skills that might relate to the manufacturing or might relate to the industrial internet that we spoke about earlier. The second thing we're doing is we're investing in the projects themselves. So we have an agreement with Aqua Power for the Beirut Power Project, which is a combined cycle gas-fired power project. We will be an equity investment partner in that project, and we have commitments to do the same thing with Aqua Power for additional projects in the future, and we are also looking at the same potential for renewable energy projects, mainly wind projects. So we're excited about investing in Egypt, and we are proceeding on both the manufacturing side, the training side, and the power project side.
Imad, from I guess, a foreign investor's perspective, what would you like to see the government do in terms of its clean energy program on the long term?
I would like to see the government, they put the target for themselves to reach 20% by 2022 and maybe by 25% by 2030. And I would like to see this target even extended up to 30% because wind power, mainly wind power and solar, both have a great future in Egypt in the energy mix. And we shall really rely on those two renewable resources in combination with other resources to fuel the future of Egypt. So I would like the government to work on those targets, to bring them faster, and to even increase the target to 30%.
Great. Tamer, what's your perspective on that question? What would you like to see, from Orascom's perspective, the government do in the long term to further meet its energy mix and energy balance with respect to clean energy?
We would like to see a streamline of projects every year as far as wind and solar BOO projects. I mean, the one that we're currently the lowest bidder on now was launched 6 years ago. And so it was a very long process, of course, because that involved a couple of hiccups that we had in Egypt in the last 4 years. We know that this will not happen, but in order for them to achieve this energy mix, the streamline of projects have to be to continue coming. Every year there should be several projects coming online, and I guess that's what we'd like to see.
Well, same question to you. What from your organization's perspective, would you like to see the government do?
As Tamer mentioned, actually the clear plan of projects and the pipeline of projects on the long term, medium and long term is very important for every player in this market. But more than this as well, actually, we have seen lots of big steps made by the government during the last couple of years towards investment in renewables, and we still hope for more to come. Areas for improvements are still existing, and I would say that couple of schemes for the development of renewables are still not taking the same care the government gave to other schemes. So they have been very well doing within the BOO scheme as well as the feed-in tariff, but probably some other schemes are still required to be considered, and some legal framework still required to encourage different schemes to be engaged as well.
Great, thank you. We've got a couple more minutes left. Received one question from the audience. Tim, I'd maybe like to pose this to you. What are the challenges anticipated technically in the deployment of renewables on a large scale?
Well, Egypt has a very good renewable resource. So the technical challenges in Egypt are are not really unique to Egypt. I mean, they're the same technical challenges that exist anywhere in the world. You do have with wind turbines, you have a hot and harsh environment, so you have issues of higher temperatures in the summer. You have issues of a desert environment where there is greater pitting on the blades from sand in the air. And in some places in Egypt, you have a challenge with either particularly strong wind conditions or particularly lighter wind conditions. But all of these are things that are addressable through technology development programs that we and others are engaged in. And I think that Egypt has every reason to expect that it is in a great position to move forward without any of those things being major blocks.
I think we're currently out of time, but I think that was hopefully everyone found that as interesting and insightful as I have. I'd like everyone, could they please express their gratitude to the panelists for giving their thoughts today. Tim, Imad, Wael, and Tamer, please could you express your appreciation.